Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In the previous episode, after everything that had happened, after years of searching and hopelessness, after moments when all hope seemed completely lost, Hoai Ca finally found her older brother, the one who had been missing for more than 20 years. A reunion, not loud, not showy, but filled with overwhelming emotions. Joy came unexpectedly, like a miracle no one dared to imagine. Yet it appeared right before their eyes. But it didn't stop at finding each other. It wasn't just tears of reunion. There were also things that made people think much deeper. The older brother did not just return, did not only bring the story of the past, but also brought with him a major decision. He decided to give all the money he had saved over many years, during his time working far from home, as a migrant worker, to Hùng and Hoai Ca. No contracts, no interest, no conditions attached. Simply trust. A complete trust, placed in the two people before him. And above all, family. Something he had waited so many years to have again. That money was no longer just money. It became hope, a support, an opportunity to start over, a stepping stone for Hùng to carry out plans that had only existed in his thoughts before. And in this episode, the story no longer stays within emotions, but moves into another phase. A phase of action. Hùng holds the money in his hands, feeling its weight, not just its value, but the responsibility, the trust that had been given to him. His eyes no longer show hesitation, but clear determination. He doesn't delay, doesn't let time pass in vain. Quickly contacts a partner, someone he had researched before, someone who had outlined plans, opportunities, someone who made him believe this was the right path. Hùng begins investing, preparing to import goods, arranging everything step by step, according to the plan he had set earlier. Everything moves forward quickly. The first days pass with expectation. Everything seems very smooth. The discussions clear. Information complete. The words seem reasonable. The cooperation flows smoothly, as if everything had already been arranged. Hùng looks at it and believes he made the right choice. Believes this time things will be different. Believes this will be a turning point. A turning point to change his life. To no longer worry about the past. To not betray the trust of the one who helped him. But then, time passes. The delivery day arrives. A day that should have been the beginning, but becomes a question mark. At first, just a small delay. A phone call, not answered. Hùng calls again. Still nothing. He sends messages and waits. But the messages disappear into silence. No reply. Not a single explanation. A feeling, hard to describe, begins to appear. Unclear, but enough to make the heart uneasy. Hùng doesn't wait any longer. He decides to go there himself. The wood workshop. The place he had visited before. Where he had seen machines running, workers doing their jobs. Where he once believed was a real facility. A place worthy of trust. The road leading there is still the same. Nothing has changed. But the feeling inside is completely different. Each step, heavier. Each thought, more chaotic. And then, when he stands in front of the gate, everything suddenly stops. The gate is locked. Silent. No sign of life. No one coming or going. No machine sounds. No movement at all. Hung stands there, looking inside, through small gaps. But what he sees is not what he saw before. Inside, empty. No machines. No workers. Nothing at all. Only a cold emptiness. As if this place had never been a workshop. As if everything was just a shell. A shell, carefully built, at the right time, in the right way, just to create trust. And once the goal was achieved, it vanished, without a trace. Hung stands there, frozen, not because he doesn't understand, but because he cannot accept it. What he saw, what he believed, turned out to be a performance, a carefully planned trap. The person he trusted, the one who spoke about plans, about the future, about opportunities, was not a partner, but a scammer. Someone who prepared everything, rented a workshop temporarily, staged machines, staged workers, staged an entire process, just to create a perfect illusion, to make others believe. And then, when everything was done, when the money was in hand, they disappeared, without a word, without a trace. Not only Hung's money, but also his brother Hoai Ca's. Money, earned through sweat, through years away from home, through sacrifices of an entire lifetime. Hung can no longer stand. He collapses, right in the empty yard. No one around. Nothing to hold on to. Everything falls apart. Not piece by piece, but completely. The plan, gone. The hope, gone. The trust, no longer intact. Only an emptiness remains. A void, impossible to describe. And deep inside, a feeling of regret. Not just because of the lost money, but because he placed trust in the wrong person. Because he failed to protect what was entrusted to him. A feeling so heavy, it suffocates. And from that moment, another journey, perhaps, is about to begin. When he returns, the familiar road looks the same as always. Nothing has changed. Nothing is different. But Hung's steps have never felt heavier. Each step is no longer steady, no longer firm. As if he is carrying something immense. A weight, invisible, yet pressing down on every thought. Hung doesn't know where to begin. Doesn't know how to say it. Doesn't know how to face Hoai Ca's eyes. What just happened is not only a failure, but a shock. A truth too difficult to accept right away. He walks into the house. The familiar space. Yet it feels distant. No longer peaceful like before, but filled with silence. Heavy with pressure. He says nothing. Just stands there. A moment of silence stretches. But Hoai Ca doesn't need to wait for an explanation. Doesn't need to hear the full story. Just by looking into Hung's eyes, she understands. Those eyes no longer carry the confidence from before. No longer shine with hope. Instead, they are dimmed. But it is the right one. Because he understands. What he is facing is no longer simple. No longer just a failed deal. But a case that needs to be uncovered. All information is reviewed again. Nothing overlooked. Nothing taken lightly. From the smallest details. Phone numbers. Every call. Every message. Addresses. Places he had been. Documents. Everything that was provided. All of it. Carefully re-examined. Each clue. Connected. Each detail. Placed in its proper position. No longer scattered pieces. But gradually forming a clearer picture. Hung looks at it. No longer with confusion. But with focus. Clarity. A different mindset. From when he stood before that locked gate. And from here, the story no longer stops at loss, but begins to move in another direction. A journey to reclaim what was lost, and to face the truth until the very end. But after everything that had been done, after every careful review, after every moment of hope followed by disappointment, the final result still remained at zero. No new information. No clear sign. No detail strong enough to trace anything. Everything fell into an invisible void. A void with no beginning and no end. The more they searched, the further it seemed. The more they tried to grasp, the more it slipped away. That person, the one behind everything, the one who gained Hung's complete trust, the one who created a perfect illusion, now was as if they had never existed. No verified name. No real address. No information that could be confirmed. Everything became vague. What once seemed clear now was just scattered fragments. What once inspired trust now raised doubt. Every trace did not disappear by accident. It was erased. Erased deliberately. Erased carefully. Erased so completely that not a single gap was left behind. As if, from the very beginning, they had planned this. Planned the escape. Planned the disappearance. Planned to ensure nothing could ever be traced back. Every time they checked again, every time they reviewed the information, there was hope. But then, that hope quickly faded. No results. No progress. No answers. Only silence. A silence that stretched on, saying nothing, yet making everything feel heavier. Time passed. Day by day. It did not stop. Did not wait. But for Hung, each day felt longer than usual. Not because time had changed, but because the pressure was growing. The lost money was not just a number, not just a failed investment, but everything placed into it. Trust, hope, expectation. Not only his own, but also Hoai Ca's. And his older brothers, who had given everything without hesitation. That money was not easy to recover. Not only because of its value, but because the path to get it back was no longer clear. No direction. No trace to follow. No starting point to begin the search again. Trust, once the greatest source of strength, now had been shaken. Not completely lost, but no longer whole. Cracks had formed. Cracks not easy to mend. Not because they didn't want to believe, but because what had happened was enough to make anyone cautious, to think more carefully before every decision. Hùng stood in the middle of it all. No longer in the initial panic. No longer shocked like the moment he discovered the truth. But not completely calm either. Instead, a state of stillness. Quiet. But heavy. A silence. Filled with thoughts. Questions. Without answers. He understood. He could not return to the beginning. Could not pretend nothing had happened. And certainly could not stop here. But the road ahead was no longer clear. No predefined steps. No concrete plans. Only uncertainty. And the unknown. Would Hùng be able to find the one behind everything? Was that person truly gone forever? Or still somewhere out there, just not yet discovered? Would the lost money ever have a chance to be recovered? Or would it remain an unfinished story, without an ending? And the journey ahead, after this fall, what challenges were waiting? Would they be opportunities to rise again? Or more difficulties, continuing to test them? No one could know. No one could be certain. But one thing was clear. The story was not over. What had happened was not the end, but a turning point. A turning point that changed everything. Changed the way they saw, the way they thought, the way they chose. And from this very moment, a new journey was slowly unfolding. A journey no longer simple, no longer easy, but precisely because of that, worth waiting for. Stay tuned for the next episode to follow what happens next and where the story will go. And don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the upcoming parts of the story. See you again in the next episodes.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người video về câu chuyện của Hoài Ca và Hùng nha mọi người. Cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều vì đã theo dõi video của mình. Nếu như mọi người yêu quý kênh mình thì hãy đăng ký kênh và chuông thông báo lên, và đừng bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào ở trên kênh của mình mọi người nhé. Mọi người ơi, nếu mà yêu thương thì đừng quên cho video hôm nay một like nha. Và mình mong rằng mọi người sẽ luôn đồng hành cùng mình trong những video tiếp theo. Cảm ơn mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video sau. Bye bye, tạm biệt mọi người.